we kind of have to know what's going on, y'all. We kind of have to know what's going on. And so that is why I wanted to record today's video, because I think that there is so much around how the industry of AI works that is coming to light. Thank goodness for the amazing work of some really dedicated investigative journalism that is really showing us behind the scenes of what it takes to train the models, and is also showing us the downstream effects of what exactly happens once these models get into use and the effects of that on people on the ground. And so I kind of wanted to do today's video as a bit of a response to a couple other videos that I have watched. And these are one, a video by The Financial Diet. For those of you who know The Financial Diet, Chelsea, who is the owner, not this Chelsea, that Chelsea, who is the CEO of that company, recently did some kind of AI video. I did not see it, um, but she was apparently being like roasted in the comment section, and so she did a response video to kind of expound further on her stance and why she took some of the stances that she did, some of her biases, and to open up a discussion with the community, the TFD community. And I was looking through the comments and seeing some of the stories that were being told in the comments, and I felt it was useful and important to make my people who follow me as aware as possible of what we are complicit in when we choose to use these tools. And then the second video is from More Perfect Union. For those of you who know More Perfect Union, I'll drop the links to the videos as well at the end of this video, as well as in the comments, so that y'all can go watch them if you'd like. But that video is with Karen Howe is the person who is leading that discussion. And if you watched my other video on the Diary of a CEO interview with Karen Howe, you kind of have some knowledge of like what she does and who she is. She, for those of you who haven't watched that video and don't know her, she is an investigative journalist, and she has been working in investigating AI and tech for years now. I think it's probably about, I think she's given the number like 10 or 12 or something like that. It's been a good long time. And I wanted to share some of the comments beneath that video as well, because that video in particular exposes the realities of data annotation and what it takes to train the models that we are using, and how human training is like essential. And we think that we at least me, I had a vision in my mind that it was these models were being trained obviously in like supercomputers in data centers, like the models are training themselves basically. No, humans are training these models, and these are humans with highly advanced skill sets, advanced degrees, masters, PhDs, and they are unfortunately being highly exploited. And so I wanted to surface what some of those experiences were like for y'all, so that we know what we're complicit in. And when we pay for our Claude plans and or ChatGPT plans, like what we're paying for. So now that you know what this video is about, for those of you who are sticking around, let's dive into this. The first video from The Financial Diet, some of the comments, as I said, I wanted to share some of these so that we understand like the sort of downstream ripple effects for folks whose jobs are currently being affected with AI. And I think it's really important to also understand that jobs are being lost to the promise of AI, not even like the actual AI model can yet handle the job, but the idea that the model is coming, companies are laying people off. And the job description that people now have and their roles are drastically changing, and what they do on a day-to-day basis is drastically changing. So when you think about someone who trained to be a software engineer and who thoroughly enjoys like writing code and being in the back end and like loves their job, now having to transition. Well, actually, here's what I'll do. I'll just read the comments. So this person says, I'm a software engineer and I do not write any code anymore, which is insane to me. The AI does everything. I am required to do this. I am required to do this. My AI usage is tracked and my performance is graded by how much AI I am using and how much more code I am able to produce. When I read this, I kind of had like a brief brain meltdown because I was like, wait, not only is your job changing to the point where you are no longer doing the one thing that is the core part of your role and has been a core part of your role until now, but your performance is no longer being measured on the quality of the code and what the code is able to achieve. Your performance is primarily being measured on how much AI you're using and how much more code you're able to produce. Quantity, not even quality, not even the result of the code, but just how much code you're able to produce. Like, that is insane. That is literally insane. They continue to say, I hate my job now. I actually liked coding. I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with my life now. I'm paraphrasing here because they use expletives and we're not doing that on this channel. Everyone was up in arms for the artists, but I knew it was coming from my job first. I basically exist to translate what product managers want into something that the AI can understand. If product managers ever learn to do this for themselves, I will be out of a job. We are a single income household, not by choice, and I don't know what we're going to do when this happens. Bruh, imagine training for years, right? Imagine training for years and enjoying what you are doing and building your entire career on this skill set. And now you no longer get paid to do what you love to do, and what was just a couple years before a thoroughly advanced skill set for human beings to have. Now it's a basic skill set, and you're essentially a babysitter to ensure that the AI is producing what it needs to be producing. And needs is even a strong word because you're not even ensuring. If we extend that babysitting analogy, the AI is not even like a well fed, healthy, well raised child. The AI is just a child that you're keeping alive. Because going back to their statement, I don't know if it's a what gender this person is. Their statement says, my AI usage is tracked and my performance is graded by how much AI I'm using and how much more code I'm able to produce. Which means we're not even trying to ensure quality of this code. We're just trying to pump out code. And to me, that is literally like saying, it's literally a parent saying to their child, I'm not trying to make sure that you have critical thinking skills. I'm not trying to make sure you can survive in the world. All I'm trying to do is that you stay alive. That is it. I don't care about the quality of your life. I just want to make sure that you are alive. I don't know what to say to that. That is deeply problematic. And it raises so many frightening questions about not just career trajectory disruption, because it's more than a career. It's like it's a sort of loss of relevance of your passion, a loss of relevance to the world of this thing that you have spent years dedicating your life, your heart, and your brain space to. Like, if you think about the brain of someone who codes, their neural pathways are optimized to create the best outcomes from a language that humans do not naturally speak. And we are now telling them that this brain that they have trained to serve humanity, by the way, because the only reason that computers and all of this stuff exists is to serve humanity. And so you're now looking at this person and telling this person that all of this passion, all of this training, this brain that they have built to serve us is no longer relevant, and we don't need it anymore. And in fact, we need you to take care of the new child, because it is a child, that's going to be doing your job. And it's not going to be doing it better than you. It's not going to be smarter than you. But you need to police it and make sure that this child does what you used to do, only more. That's damn twisted. I'm sorry. That's hella damn twisted. Next comment. As a software engineer, seeing firsthand the impact of product owners and project managers getting access to AI tools that claim to be able to code, the biggest impact for me is having more and more work that is more tedious. As I go in to fix code created by people who don't understand the code they just generated. We're not filling extra positions to make up for how much extra work I'm doing. And I'm expected to do all that extra work in the same time because I now have AI tools to help me. The LLMs aren't able to fix the mistakes they made because the code is valid, even though it's unmaintainable, poorly implemented, wasteful, and inelegant. AI as a technology AI as a technology category that's been going for 60 years is really cool. But the current AI push is almost solely focused on LLMs. So adding the nuance of other AI technologies to the conversation genuinely isn't helpful right now. Product owners and project managers are thrilled at how much more work is happening. But the problem is that so much of that more is only more, not better. And I think this is exactly what that first comment was pointing to, is like this sort of idolization of production instead of focusing on quality and actually efficiently and effectively solving problems, because that's what code and computers are designed to do: efficiently and effectively solve problems. And I want us to pay attention to like the adjectives that he's using that is describing the current code being generated. The adjectives he uses are unmaintainable, because that's one of the key things of any software is you have to maintain the code, because bugs happen. Issues come up. They're like, you gradually learn better and better ways to make the code function more efficiently, effectively, and quickly, right? So you have to maintain your code base on the back end of your products, the things that you are creating, the things that you build. And he's saying, this person, I don't know the gender, I keep defaulting to he, my apologies. This person is saying the code that the LLM, the model they're using is writing, is unmaintainable. So there's something about the way that these models write code that makes it extremely difficult to actually get in there and maintain said code. It's poorly implemented, which I am taking to mean poorly written, but I might be wrong on that. It might be more related to like, well, then the person also says wasteful. So I think wasteful is probably pointing to like efficiency, and also like how many lines of code it actually takes to do a specific job is the way I'm thinking about this. Like if you can do, if the model writes code in like 21 lines to do a specific task, but an actual human coder can write that same code to accomplish that same job in 5 lines, it's wasteful. That's the way I'm thinking about this. If there are any software engineers in my community, please correct me and call me out on that. So not only can you not maintain it, it's also like way more than it needs to be. And it's inelegant, which again I think kind of refers to like unique and imaginative ways of solving a problem with code. So if we think about this as like a language, which like we have different coding languages, and you draw the analogy to like the English language or the French language, there are certain ways of saying things that are extremely elegant, that get the meaning across, that accomplish the what you're trying to communicate in a really powerful and effective way, compared to just saying exactly what you mean. And I think that's kind of what he's referring to here, like innovative and creative ways, or the person, exactly what the person is referring to here, creative and effective and innovative ways to solve a particular problem and to write the code so that it solves the problem instead of just like saying what you want the code to do. And obviously, this person thinks AI has not learned that yet, which I can see. That makes sense to me. Because the amount of like, what's the phrase? Is the phrase junk code? I don't remember the phrase that is used to talk about like just a bunch of extra unnecessary lines of code that AI writes. That when you show it to an actual software engineer, they're like, what the, you don't need half of this. You don't need any, most of this you do not need. I get it. And as much as I love, now don't get me wrong, hear me, I adore vibe coding tools, because there's nothing quite like the rush of seeing an idea that you have had in your head for years but have been unable to build because you don't know code, watching that idea come to life in minutes. Like, there's nothing like it. However, I have to also recognize that for that to be an actual maintainable and viable product, I probably need a human being to help me to clean up that code that the AI just wrote, because it's probably a mess back there. And I don't know enough personally to do that. But the wild part about this, or the wilder part about this, is that this person is now having to do so much more work to clean up the code that was written by AI instead of just doing the work to write the code themselves. And they have to do all of that work with no additional help or resources, which is more work than they were doing before when they were just writing the code themselves. No additional help or resources and no additional pay, which to me implies that they're actually working more hours as well. Like, they're probably working overtime, doing what should be not a one-person job themselves, not getting paid well for it, and seeing mistakes that they would never have made. So can you imagine how like infuriating and demoralized you feel? How infuriating and demoralizing this must be to come to work, watch the skill set that you have spent years developing be devalued in favor of AI that doesn't write code half as good as you. And you now not only have to correct the code that the AI wrote, but you have to spend more time correcting said code than if you just wrote it yourself. That's messed up. That is messed up. And this is the kind of thing that programmers, software developers are facing every single day when they go to work, according to what these comments are saying, if we just go off of these comments. And the last sentence is really like what cinches everything. Product owners and project managers are thrilled at how much more work is happening. More. But the problem is that so much of that more is only more, not better. And I think this is the thread that we're seeing here, is like AI doesn't do half as well as humans do. I mean, we see it in copy too. As a copywriter, and as someone who talks to other copywriters, I mentioned this in another video, like the pendulum is swinging back. A lot of people fired their copywriters and moved over to AI to be what writes the copy for them. But now they're coming back to their human copywriters and being like, hey, y'all, we need help. Because the copy that AI wrote, we thought it was good. We tested it with a launch. It did not go well. And so we need your help to like rewrite this because this doesn't, what AI gave us is not going to work. It's the same kind of thing. Thankfully, I don't know what this is like for copywriters who are employed, and I probably should see if I can find some resources and firsthand accounts of that. But for copywriters like me who own our own businesses, at the very least, we don't have to. We can choose not to be in a position where we are babysitting AI at the copy that it writes. At least we're not in a situation like this developer. But I can see a situation where employed copywriters would be in a similar problem because they now have to spend all their time policing the copy that AI writes. And then moving out of the software and tech field into the medical field, I worked for 25 years in medical records, including being a transcriptionist, an editor, a quality assurance specialist, a scribe, and briefly as a coder. I started that work in the transition between paper records and EMR, which is around 2000. Um, I was displaced by speech recognition, and the vast majority of providers now write their own notes with no proofreading at all. And I have never seen records so riddled with grievous, or rather, the word is grievous, not grievous, with grievous and potentially dangerous errors as I have in the last couple of years, all in the name of cutting costs for the healthcare orgs. Already heavily overloaded doctors and APNPs and PACs, which I'm not sure what those acronyms mean, but it's obviously like healthcare professionals, are supposed to compose documents intended to be a legal record and assure continuity of care. I encourage everyone who can, even if you're not too well versed in medicine or medical jargon, to read your notes. You'll be dismayed. And I think this was probably happening even before ChatGPT came on stream, even before AI models and this kind of boom around AI, because we've had speech recognition even before we've had all of this. But I think that with AI, the technology has been accelerated, and we've seen instances of this. Like I mean, for those of you who know and watch The Pit, and maybe even watch Dr. Mike here on YouTube, they've talked a bunch of times. It comes up in the show, and it has also come up with Dr. Mike talking about this on his YouTube channel. How you have to proofread what the AI writes because it will write crap. And you cannot afford for it to do that because then you give the patient the wrong medicine, then you read the wrong diagnosis and create a wrong treatment plan that can put their health in even more jeopardy than it already is. This is not, I mean, here's the thing, y'all. I want you to see that this goes from the way that this technology is impacting day-to-day lives draws the gamut, and it really like goes across industries, from the daily work of software engineers and coders all the way to the daily health of an individual who comes into a healthcare institution trusting the provider to be able to help them solve their healthcare issues and being put at risk for treatment that can further jeopardize their health because of AI. And because it's so much easier for a provider to take their notes with AI than it is to write and fill in their charts themselves. And usually, what tends to happen, as we've seen on The Pit, and for those of you who watch Dr. Mike, as Dr. Mike has discussed before, what tends to happen is that now that you have the AI, you are now required. It's almost like an unspoken expectation, and in some cases, it is a spoken expectation that you are required to be a lot more efficient with seeing patients, and that the time that you spend with each patient is required to be less. Or at the very least, not as much as it used to be before. Even if it's not like drastically cut, you are required to be more efficient, because the idea here, and you can see it in the software engineers reports, like their own stories as well. The idea here is you have AI, so now you can do more, right? Right? You can do more. Of course you can do more. So we're going to just, like, as a part of your performance review, we're going to just check to see that you're doing more. And this is how mistakes are made. And mistakes that don't just jeopardize a product launch or users' experience with a SaaS product, but also jeopardize lives and health, because it goes all the way into the healthcare industry. And me and you walking into a healthcare institution and expecting a certain level of quality of care, but or AI or charts are wrong because the AI took notes and the doctor didn't have the time to proofread said notes, and so they pass it on to the next shift, and there's something very wrong in there. And then we get medication that we weren't supposed to get, and we're in a worse situation than when we came in. I'd be really curious as to, like, if there are any instances of this already happening. I should probably like do some research on that. But I think it's important to point out that this is dangerous, not just on an individual level, right? Like, this technology is drastically changing the way so many industries, the status quo in so many industries, and it is placing before highly trained professionals alternatives and choices that they never imagined that they would need to make. And it's compromising the quality of their work and compromising their ability to deliver what is their best standard of work, which then suggests that it is compromising the industry. Healthcare, tech. And y'all, AI is gonna get better. AI will get better at writing code, right? Like, I believe that, because that's what they're gunning towards. But I think for right now, what that means is the growing pains of this is this reality. And how many lives will be threatened? How many livelihoods will be lost? How many people will suffer? And this is not just white collar workers. Like, the CEOs of these amazing companies, amazing, have all said, like, white collar workers will be displaced by AI. Bruh, these are not white collar workers. These are highly trained professionals, experts in their fields, more intellectually sort of engaged and exercised than the average human being, because it takes a lot of brain power to sit in front of a computer and write code all day. I believe that personally. Y'all can disagree with me in the comments if you like. It's not just affecting folks who are administrators and who are sitting behind a desk doing a typical entry level office job. It's not just them. It's for the highly trained professionals too. It's coming for their positions. It's affecting their level of work and their industry. And we see it in a really powerful way when we look at the data annotation industry, the industry where humans have to train AI to do the jobs that they can't even land, or the jobs that they got fired from. And I really encourage you to watch that More Perfect Union video. It really elucidates a lot of what I'm about to say, I'm about to share here. But I'm going to just dive right into the comments. I tried data annotation for a while, thinking it could be a decent remote income source, but I quickly realized I just couldn't stand it. The job required staring at pairs of images and writing lengthy paragraphs detailing their differences according to a strict, often vague rule set. You would also have to evaluate multiple AI generated responses, deciding on which one best followed the prompt, which you also have to decide. and hope your assessment matched the company's hidden evaluation criteria. Tasks weren't assigned based on your skills. You simply got whatever remained unpicked. And even getting onboarded demanded a video introduction, which almost certainly ended up as training data for their models. And I think this paints a really stark picture of like highly trained individuals doing these jobs that are tedious, to say the least, and frying their brains, to say the worst. Like random pairs of images, no sense of a rubric on what you're grading on, no sense of why and how this assessment is going to be helpful, and you are not even being matched to tasks based on your skills. Now, this could just be this one data annotation company that this person worked at. I don't know if it's a standard across the entire industry, but I do think that it speaks to this reality that human beings need to train these models and need to help these models understand guidelines. And the reality is that that process and that task is not is not a great experience for a human brain. It doesn't lend itself to a human brain functioning in a fully engaged and thriving way. I'll read another one. I stuck with it initially because of the remote nature and no corporate boss hovering over you, but the repetitive, brain dead nature of the work and nitpicking obvious details while navigating arbitrary rules became exhausting. I eventually quit midway and now ignore their follow up emails. And another one, the entire setup felt like pure exploitation. Companies harvest your time, attention, and personal data, while the real profits flow to the AI labs and data centers acting as middlemen. I would rather eat mud than go back to that job. And this is, I think, that kind of that reality that a lot of workers with tedious jobs face. Like when I think about factory workers and meat packers in particular, like if you think about a meat pack, if you've never if you've never encountered the reality of a meatpacking factory in your life, the only reason I know this is because I watch random videos on YouTube. But from what I understand, the tedium of a job on the floor of a meatpacking factory is so intense that workers make mistakes, not just because of the speed at which the conveyor belt is moving, but also because of the fact that you're doing the same job over and over and over again. And it's tedious, so your brain doesn't have incentive to engage, and your muscles are also tired because you're doing the same action over and over again. It's like you're doing this repeatedly. And so the muscles that it takes to do that movement over and over again get really drained and tired, and your brain is disengaged, and so you accidentally like cut yourself, and it's a serious injury because you weren't engaged enough to be fully paying attention to what you were doing, and your muscles were so tired, and the conveyor belt was going so quickly. And I think it's a similar kind of tedium that workers in this industry face, where and in some ways it's quite possibly, even though physically it's not worse, I think mentally it's worse because there is this idea that you have no clear guidelines. See, this person says the nitpicking obvious details while navigating arbitrary rules, and they're using these words like exhausting, brain dead, right? The previous person said something along the lines of strict and often vague rule sets, right? These what they're the job that they're required to do, it's very clear that it doesn't create a healthy environment for a human being just from reading these stories alone. And when I say healthy environment, I'm talking about a healthy and engaged work environment where a human being can produce work that is beneficial for the company. And so when you think about the future of work, and when you think about if you are employed, what that looks like, and if you run your own business, what it looks like to bring people into your own company and bring employees onto your team, asking this question of, are you integrating AI in a way that actually supports the environment within which your workers can create their best work? Or are you creating an environment where the the worker is subject to the AI, and in a lot of ways subject to it in a way that does not create engagement and does not give the worker the opportunity for fulfillment at their job, and doesn't give them the opportunity to actually contribute gainfully to your bottom line, because the work that you have described doesn't use their best skills. It uses their brain as a commodity. It literally takes their time, and I see the person here said it. The entire setup felt like pure exploitation. Companies harvest your time, attention, and personal data, while the real profits flow to the AI labs and data centers acting as the middlemen. Right? Like it's this idea that your brain has now become a commodity because we can use it to train the AI. And then it begs the question to me. It begs the question to me, like, okay, so what are we training the AI to do? Isn't this AI supposed to help humans? And there is a philosophical and I think ethical question here of, like, if it's supposed to help humans, then how can we allow this process to be harmful to humans? The process of getting it to the place where it can efficiently help humans, how can we allow it getting to that place to be harmful to humans? Like, this process of getting there, this journey to get to a place where we have AGI, or we have this super intelligence, we have this thing that can be so helpful to humans, and the tech CEOs claim is going to create this amazing utopia, right? And if we can just get there. But the collateral damage question needs to be asked. It needs to be asked, because there is no way that it is okay and excusable. The means do not justify the ends. If hundreds of thousands of people, and even possibly millions of people, no longer have an avenue for fulfilling work and using their best skills to contribute to society and to a particular company or organization, and they are essentially being farmed for their intellect, how is that okay to get to this outcome that we're trying to get to? How does that utopia justify this cost? Because at this point, the only people who will be enjoying that utopia is the tech CEOs. Everybody else will be living on the streets. Because not only will workers be losing their opportunities for gainful employment and engaging work, but they'll also be losing their livelihoods because they can't actively, like, sustain this. This person said, I would rather eat mud than go back to that job. Bruh. One more. My wife briefly worked at a job to train AI models that was advertised as a $50 per hour job. Turns out that after a full 8-hour workday, the only billable time during that day was 90 minutes. And this is not mindless work. It's constant, careful listening, then typing out your thoughtful, articulate descriptions of what you just heard. Again, it sounds like your brain is being farmed. Your intellect, your ability, your cognitive ability is being farmed, because this person, this person's wife, was paid basically what, $75 for an 8-hour workday, because it's $50 an hour, but the only billable time was 90 minutes. I did this for a bit. It was extremely exploitative. I was unpaid for hours worth of work that was given to me as an assessment, or wasn't paid for actual work because it wasn't accepted. And that's not how it should work. I should have been paid for all work I did, but was never paid. Someone else says, some of the platforms aren't that bad, but others are others really had this hit piece coming. The work conditions are bad. I reckon the reason the median annual income is only 22K is because the mental strain that this work puts on you makes it very difficult to put in enough hours. The pay is actually pretty good overall, though it varies. So this is a slightly more positive take on this, but they do admit the work conditions are bad. And the median pay is only $22,000 a year. I mean, I don't know how they can say that like the pay is pretty good because $22,000 a year is not good at all. You can't live on that. So y'all, I hope we can kind of honestly, y'all, a big reason why I'm doing this, why I decided to make this video, is for awareness sake, but also for activation. I kind of hope it makes you pissed. Just to be honest, I kind of hope it pisses you off, and I kind of hope that it radicalizes you a little bit. Because here's the thing: I'm not based in the U.S. I'm based in Jamaica. I don't get a vote on y'all's representatives. I don't get a vote on whether a new data center is built in my community. I don't get a vote on AI regulation and how AI is regulated and how the data annotation industry is regulated and how software coders and worker protection policies are put in place. I don't get a vote on that. But if you live in the US and you are in a region where like maybe you're having a data center pop up in your region, like you get a vote. You get to say something. You have state representatives, you have local representatives, you have people that you can call up, that you can send emails, that you can send letters, that you can lobby. You have attorneys general that you can elect to go after these companies to force policy and change regulation. Because at this point, policy is literally the only the only recourse that I see stopping this meteor that's already drastically changing our environment. It's like it is as if let's take it to Armageddon for those of us who've watched the movie, right? It's literally as if there is a meteor hurtling towards the earth, and it's already close enough to us that we're feeling the drastic effects of it, and it's changing the way we do life, right? Maybe the atmosphere is heating up or cooling down, and we can't go outside anymore. So we have to stay at home. We can't work, right? Like, and this is an analogy of some of the effects that we're feeling, right? We're already feeling the effect of this massive change, but it hasn't really hit us. And when I say it hasn't hit us, I mean that's going to get worse. And it's going to get worse if we don't do something about it. We have an opportunity right now to do something about it. I know a lot of people are pessimistic. I know a whole lot of people are pessimistic. As a matter of fact, I think someone in the comments on the More Perfect Union video said something along the lines of, let me read their comment. It seems a bit naive to say that it's still worth trying to use AI because we can use policy to prevent companies from wreaking havoc on the labor market and the environment. They're saying it's naive to say that policy can do anything when we can't even enact policy changes to protect even the most basic human rights, but suddenly we're going to do so against one of the biggest economic booms for the ultra wealthy. At this point, and I take their point. I hear the pessimism and I understand it. And at the same time, it's obviously not going to take one of us. Here's the sentence that they said that I don't agree with. At this point, rejecting AI is just a survival tactic amidst a rapid takeover from the ruling class. I mean, you as an individual not paying your dollars to these companies ain't gonna make a difference to their bottom line, bruh. As a matter of fact, if you do a bit of research, use any of these AI tools you want. I talked to Claude for a little bit on this, and as I understand it, again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm always happy to engage in dialogue on this stuff. But correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I understand it, a significant portion of these companies' like funding and investment and revenue comes from organizational contracts and government contracts. It does not come from us, the consumer. We only make up a tiny percentage of their yearly revenue. So I don't even know if all of us said we were not going to use these tools, that it would make as big a difference as we think. And that's why I think policy is really one of the biggest ways that we can, and if not the only way right now, the only recourse we have to stop this meteor from hitting us and exploding the whole planet. So, all of that to say, I kind of hope this radicalizes you. I kind of hope you call your representatives. I kind of hope you find out for your local area, what are your reps saying about AI? Are there protections in place for workers against AI in some way? Can you lobby your people to start to put those protections in place? What does that look like? Right? I hope that it politically activates you, because at this point, unless we're all just going to sit here and walk through it, we're already deep in it. So like, we've got to do something. And this is a daily kind of struggle for me, because as I said, I use these tools. I was in Claude earlier today. Like, I use these tools on a day-to-day basis. And so it's you feel uncomfortable in your complicity. And I hear all of the business owners who say that it creates an unprecedented opportunity for us to create wealth for ourselves and our communities, that especially for communities who are marginalized and not given the same level of access and privilege, historically have not been given the same level of access and privilege as other communities. I hear you on that. I hear people who say that. I hear business owners who say that. And at the same time, I don't think that it is okay. I won't use a stronger phrase. I don't think that it is okay to use these tools and not understand our complicity and not do something about it. So that's my encouragement, challenge to you today. This is already the reality. We're already feeling the drastic effects. This is not going to stop unless we do something to stop it. And it's more than just not using the tool. It's more than just being anti-AI on your personal stance. This has to be something that we come together and stand up against and force legislation and force representatives to do something about it. And it's going to take time, because the law takes time, unfortunately. The law is slow. So it's going to take time. But what we're fighting for is a future within which we can work with AI and we don't lose to it. A future that actually honors the intention that the CEOs talked about years ago, because now they're changing their tune a lot. If you listen to how they talk over the years and like the things that they say, and how they talk about what AI is going to be able to do, it's wild how their tune is changing, by the way, y'all. But if like that original vision of AI being for humanity and supporting humanity, the only way that that actually gets honored is if we do something, because they're not going to do anything. Because for them, it's for their humanity, which is profit and their bottom line. It's not for all humanity. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining me in today's video. If you watched all the way through, I appreciate it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. DM me on Instagram or drop a comment. Like, subscribe if this is the kind of content that you like to see. I'm talking a lot about AI these days. I also talk about launching and coaching offers and messaging, so you can stick around for that as well. And I have more topics coming soon too, because I've posted some fun things about like me quitting my past roles, as well as like me building a social life at my grown age. So if that's the kind of content that you want to see, stick around, like, subscribe. Let's have a conversation in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.